Hey there, I know you're on a journey from grief to growth, just like I am, and you may be looking for tools to help you live a more soul aligned life. Well, head over to my Grief to Growth store. It's your one stop shop for inspiration, for healing, and for transformation. Inside there, you're going to find some free resources to help you get started. You'll find guided meditations to calm your mind and reconnect with your spirit. You'll find signed copies of my book, Gems of Healing. You'll find my brand new Oracle deck to help you tap into daily divine guidance. And there's some powerful mini courses designed to fit in your busy life and move you forward one gentle step at a time. So whether you're deep in grief, seeking spiritual growth, or just ready for a reset, there's something waiting for you right now. Just go to grieftogrowth.com/store, grief2growth.com/store, and start exploring. Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried, but what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Hey there, I'm Brian Smith, and welcome to Grief to Growth. Whether this is your first time joining us or you've been walking this path with us for a while, I am truly glad you're here. This story is about making sense of life, especially when life doesn't make sense. We talk about how to navigate grief and loss, explore our deeper purpose, and ask the big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Where do we go from here? I bring on guests who help illuminate the path, no matter how dark it may feel at times. My guest today is Angela Jean, and Angela brings a powerful embodied approach to healing and transformation that goes far beyond mindset or affirmation. She's a mindset and nervous system strategist, but more than that, she's a resilience architect forged through lived experience. At just the age of 13, Angela left behind the traditional path to walk her own path, one marked by trauma, by survival, and ultimately deep reclamation. Having lost both her father and sister to suicide, Angela turned her body's survival instincts, into a roadmap for embodied healing and personal mastery. Her approach is not theoretical, it's actually visceral. Rooted in rhythm, micro movements, and nervous system science, Angela teaches that you are who you train to be. In this episode, we'll explore what it really means and how we can all begin to regulate our nervous systems, transfer self-sabotage into sovereignty, and tune into our own internal compass. We'll talk about how the body remembers danger before the mind can process it, and how that truth became a foundation for healing rather than a life sentence. We'll look at how to replace performative healing with true alignment, how frequency and energy impact what we call in, and how to move from overthinking into a deeper state of inner knowing. This episode is for anyone who has felt stuck in survival mode, who is tired of chasing healing, and who's ready to come home to themselves, not just in theory, but in practice. And after the episode, I invite you to continue the conversation with me over at my Substack at grieftogrowth.substack.com. You'll find an article there that delves deeper into what we talked about today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you in the comments. So now let's dive in and welcome Angela Jean.
Wow. Hi, Brian. That was quite the intro.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you here. I'm sure you have quite a story to tell, so I wanted to do it justice.
Thank you.
So we were talking earlier. I know your life took a turn very early. So tell me about that.
Like many of us, I was raised in a household that had a lot of trauma. Both my parents struggled with addiction. My mom more so than my dad. So when I was 3 years old, my dad decided to raise us on his own. Unfortunately, with that came very bad choices in partner selection. So he married my first stepmom, and that's when real abuse was introduced into the household. She was extremely physical abusive.
Mm.
At 13, after 10 years of dealing with that, I decided to try to move in with my mom, who was still struggling with sobriety, but sober enough to have a home. When I moved in with her, she had chosen a man that was a pedophile. So then I dealt with the sexual abuse, which is why I left home so early at 13 years old. That's kind of nutshelling the childhood trauma without getting
Yeah.
into it too much. So I decided to jump out the window at 13 because that was safer than home.
Mm.
And that's when the survival, you know, the survival really kicked in. Because at 13 years old, I was sleeping in bushes. I was shoplifting candy and smoking because smoking curbs your appetite and, living on candy. And honestly, hitchhiking. Like if you think of that stuff now, it's just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How did I make it this far is really a miracle. That's why I really do believe in some type of guardian angel, you know what I mean, watching over us and that individual soul journey having such a purpose
Yeah.
that when, you know,
So logistically at
that when
13,
you
how did
actually make it to the
you,
other. Yeah.
yeah, at 13 you said you were on your own, so you were how were you getting by?
You know what's so interesting about trauma? I can't, I wish I could answer that question. I can't remember so much. I just remember sleeping in bushes. I remember honestly, believe it or not, meeting, this sounds so crazy, but like a gang member that kind of took me on and took care of me. Like, and I was introduced to like this life. I don't really know. I went from house to house. I was living wherever I could sleep. I was sleeping on couches. Like, that's why I think that home was never anything that felt safe for me. So even once I was an adult and I had a home, I became so protective of anyone that I would even let walk in through my front door
Sure.
because I was so used to sleeping on guard. Because if you're sleeping in someone's house on the floor because they let you stay there, you're not really sleeping. You're sleeping with your eyes open. You know what I mean? Because anything
Right.
can happen.
Right.
Especially a lot of these homes were men, so it's quite scary. Um, there's a lot of drugs involved. There's so much that I can't remember. I do know when I did find, let's just say, my grounding at around 17 years old, I met this guy who was just, like I say, one of these guardian angels that were put into my life and just let me live in his attic, took care of me, nothing weird. He was like the nicest guy I've ever met. And I was able to blossom from there.
Hmm.
You know? I mean, listen, we're still living and I say we're still living and loving from the wound because I had many toxic patterns. You know what I mean? I was constantly locked up in survival. I was at this point using my body as a weapon, so naturally I went into exotic dancing and I definitely worked with Playboy for a while. You know what I mean? It takes a long time to realize why you're doing what you're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? You don't understand. So that's the beautiful thing about these journeys is that when you start to really cultivate a little bit of awareness and you start to hear that little whisper that sometimes let's just say I was um, at a photo shoot and you just hear that whisper like, this doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? You just that connection. You see that you don't connect to the lifestyle the way everybody else does, and you really try to start figuring out why do you feel so different than everybody else? Like that's when the real journey begins, is when you really start to answer that whisper.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
Yeah.
very subtle.
Yeah, yeah, that inner voice that I think is actually I think it's your higher self, but a
Well,
lot of
yeah.
times it's drowned out by those other voices. And we all develop these voices that speak to us through our early childhood. And I
Mhm.
would imagine yours are probably very loud, as you said. These voices are there to protect us, so they put us in that survival mode. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It would always trigger when I was, let's say, like we were hosting a big event and all the girls were getting drunk and doing drugs. And I never connected to that. And I was just like, why am I so different? Like, why is everyone okay with this and I'm not? You would think I
Hmm.
would be the one that was okay with it because I like dealt with alcoholism and sexual abuse and all this stuff in my home. But it's funny how I would lock up and I just would realize I'm like, why is this not okay with me? And I almost, like you say, it's your higher self pulling you into this purpose.
Hmm.
Like I think so many of us that experience trauma, like if we can alchemize that, we become such a vehicle of service, because I can speak to everything now that I've, definitely done the transformative healing and gosh, all the training that I've done. But that didn't really start happening until I experienced the suicides in my family. So once I was obviously working and living my own life, I tried to go back home. And that's when I really got, you think I had enough trauma. That's when I really got hit with trauma because that's when my dad committed suicide. My
Hmm.
little sister committed suicide right after, and then my mom right after.
Oh, wow.
That's when it was like full blown spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when I dug in and I realized, okay, this is not going to be my story. It's going to end with me. I'm going to figure this out. And because there were so many suicides and I started feeling that rumination of the mind, that's when I really kind of shut my life down, stepped out of the life I was living and just kind of cave mode and was like, okay, like, why did they commit suicide? You're searching for all these answers of like,
Hmm.
why did they commit suicide? And I was starting to ruminate. I'm like, okay, it's the thought patterns. It's the thinking. It's the thinking. How do I control the thinking? I couldn't control the thinking. I'm like, how do I outrun my mind? I couldn't outrun my mind. What is this feeling? Why do I feel like I'm just like there's a fist wrapped around my chest? Why can't I breathe? It was just constantly like, why can't this? Why can't that? Why can't this? You know what I mean? That search and that struggle just to answer that pain and to answer that suffocation I was feeling, that I just started, you know, studying and just be like, okay, thought patterns, thought patterns. How do
Hmm.
I fix the thought pattern? That was the first thing that came to mind for me, like my thoughts, my thoughts, my thoughts. That's when I birthed the very first modality that I teach now. I learned that rhythm signals safety.
Hmm. Yeah.
Everything that we want is on the other side of safety. So, how do we signal safety to our mind? How do we signal safety to our thoughts? How do we signal safety to our body? Because it's running, right?
Hmm.
It's constantly locking up in survival. How do I train protection instead of rehearsing? God, I guess you would. How do I train? It's actually, how do I train presence
Yeah.
more than protection? How do I train possibility more than protection? Because essentially that's what it's doing, right? When it locks up, it's protecting you. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping you alive.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. A lot of times people think that these voices that are they're like our enemy to be fought, but they are there. They're there to protect us. That's their way of helping us. But it does, and I love your language. It locks us up. It shuts us down.
Yeah.
And so many people, we think we are our thoughts. We don't even think about like trying to manage our thoughts or to curate our thoughts. We're just like they're our thoughts, and but there was something in you that said they don't have to be.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm excited to announce I have a great new resource. It's called GEMS: 4 Steps to Move from Grief to Joy. And what it is, it's 4 things that I've found that I do on a daily basis to help me to navigate my grief. And I'm offering it to you free of charge. It's a free download. Just go to my website, www.grieftogrowth.com/gems, GEMS, and grab it there for free. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, there was just something, like you say, that's like that inner conflict, you know? And so, like you say, when you lock up, like people don't want to sit with that because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good. It hurts. You
Yeah.
can't breathe. You just want to push it away, turn on the music, push it away, go have a drink, push it away, go socialize, you know? And that's why everyone feels stuck, because
Hmm.
you're not taking the time to repattern your nervous system, to repattern your thought patterns. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
over time, the thing is if every time you get triggered, essentially, if you track it all the way back to when you're a kid, the first time you got in trouble, you're rehearsing, okay, whatever I did wasn't okay, so let's be quiet. And then the next time, whatever I did, okay, let's be quiet, let's be a little bit smaller. You're
Right.
shrinking, you're shrinking, you're shrinking, right? So you're rehearsing this
Yeah.
protection. Yeah,
Right.
so if you don't ever throughout life tell your nervous system, tell your thought patterns that this is not you, essentially it's no longer a rehearsal. This is who you are. You know, it
Yes.
becomes your identity.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Very much. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. And it's really interesting to me how these events we talked about, these traumatic events. I mean, first of all, the childhood you went through that was, traumatizing, but then the suicides. And so you go into the state of grief, I imagine, and
Yeah.
shock. And what do you think it is that prompted you to turn within, to say the answers are within me, as opposed to like like you said, other people are doing drugs and other things?
You know, it's interesting. I got so sick of being a victim. I just was like, my story, my identity. Why am I always abused? Why am I always abandoned? Why is everyone have love in their life and I don't? Why am I so disposed of? Like I was so sick of fucking hearing that
Hmm.
that I just literally let that pain and that fire just turn inward. And all of a sudden, that inner voice was like, why do you allow it? And when I heard that voice say, why do you allow it?
Hmm.
That was like step one. And that was the real journey. Why do I allow my intimate partners to abuse me? Why do I allow them to hit me? Why do I allow them to treat me so bad? And then you have to backtrack it. When did I agree that love is pain? When did I agree that love is abuse? And guess what happened? Not immediately after asking that question, meditating, just not forcing, you guys. You have to have so much patience with these answers. One
Yeah.
day, I was in a meditation and I asked myself, like, why do I think love is pain? Why do I think, because I was dating a lot of physically abusive men. And I had a flashback when I was in third grade. That stepmom that was physically abusive had just beat me so bad that my body was starting to hemorrhage.
Mm.
And she wanted to like mask the hemorrhaging. And so she threw me across the bathroom into a freezing cold tub. And I'm sitting there naked with my knees up like this, scared to death. Man, this lady was scary, man. And she leans forward to me and she says, "You know I love you, don't you?"
Mm.
And I was so afraid to say anything other than yes. I said yes. And I'm telling you right then, boom, imprint. Love means pain. Love is scary. Love hurts.
Mm.
And I took that imprint and took it with me all through my life. And I dated men that beat the crap out of me, that told me I was shit. And you guys, and that's why you got to track these patterns.
Yeah.
You will find the connector. And in that moment, that's why I say that love and money imprints are distorted patterns. These are not our truth. You know what I mean? So that was a very, very powerful connector because then I realized, oh my God, no, this is not love.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad that you wouldn't be obvious that when someone punches you in the face, this isn't love. But,
Yeah.
you know,
But you made a really good point. That's what's imprinted. When we're young, we're impressionable, and we do get imprinted with things, and we think this is the way things are. Whatever our parents happen to tell us, however our parents happen to treat us,
yeah.
whatever that is, we consider that's quote normal.
Yeah. And these are the imprints that create our identity and that, these stories hold our life in a holding pattern
Yeah.
and that's why I say that, especially when it comes to these love imprints, like dating people that refuse to date, I'm like, you need to date because you need to trigger yourself so that you have the opportunity to let it surface and be like, no, this is
Hmm.
not the story. No, this is not my truth. And oftentimes, like, especially women, like we just want to stay safe. We don't want to hurt again. We don't want to hurt anymore. We don't want to be let down. So we just don't date. And you
Hmm.
can't ever heal. And you kind of sit with that version of yourself. So I probably tell people to do the opposite. I'm like, date, trigger yourself so that you can talk to yourself, so that you can heal yourself, so that you can repattern yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need to be triggered. I'm at a level of my life right now where I've manifested like the most epic love story. And I thought I was good. I'm 50. I'm like, I'm good. I got this. Each level of love, each level of success is more, you go even deeper. Because I had a collapse the other day and I had to shut my day down. It took me 2 hours to recalibrate myself. And I refused to step away until I did because I
Hmm.
will not let that imprint ruin what I have manifested. You have to
Yeah.
really fight for yourself. You have to just have so much pain, which is also anger. Just, man, just, I don't know. For me, I feel like I want to train people to fight for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That was another, I love that point that you made about the pain because so often, well, our bodies are designed to run away from pain. That's
Yeah.
that's that's biological. We're going to turn away from pain, whether that's physical or emotional pain. And a lot of people do. They shut down. They don't put themselves out there anymore. They're like, I don't want to experience the pain. But the pain can be such a great teacher if
Yeah,
we take it and again, using your word, which alchemize it, we take that pain and we transform it into something else. So you lean into it. You lean into those experiences and you allow them to say, what is this here to teach me?
exactly. And the big part of when people don't want to trigger themselves, don't want to lean into themselves, it's a further form of self-abandonment, which is why people are so lonely though too. I went through
Hmm.
a whole phase after all the suicides because I was feeling so lonely. I was like, God, I'm so lonely. Like I just felt lonely. I had no one. I was like in the grocery store at Thanksgiving and I was like, I found myself, it was so sad following this woman and her grandma around because they were talking about dad's going to be there and uncle's going to be there and all the family members that were going to be there and what they were going to cook. And I was just kind of hovering next to them. I was like, oh my God, I'll never have this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like so sad. And so I was feeling really lonely and I really wanted to dig into that loneliness. So I was like, what is lonely anyway? Like, what is loneliness? And that was a part of my journey that was really powerful, Brian, because what I started doing, I started just taking myself out. I didn't want to wait for that plus one, right? So if I wanted to go
Hmm.
somewhere romantic, if I wanted to go to a restaurant that just opened, I started going.
Hmm.
And in the process of that, number one, it was very frightening at first. But in the process of that, I started watching people and I started seeing couples that were sitting together that weren't even talking to each other. They looked more lonely than me. And
Hmm.
I really started to understand that loneliness has nothing to do with whether or not someone's sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And that kind of really anchored in a little bit of, I don't know, like inner authority. I don't know. I just started feeling powerful on my journey. I was like, okay, so if it has nothing to do with that, then what is it? And what I came to find is that it's a complete disconnection from the source within you. Because we're always abandoning ourselves to people please, to stay in the relationship, to not lose that job, to not upset a friend, and the further we abandon ourselves by saying yes when we want to say no, it's that disconnection from self. So I learned, like, in the process of taking myself out, cooking dinner for myself, but like legit candles, music, as if I was doing it for a man.
Hmm.
That self-love practice really rebuilt me from the inside out. And from that moment on, like this was probably 6-7 months. I was so protective of myself. And because of that belief or whatever that was, that energetic alignment, I started attracting way better people. It was just interesting how when you start to build yourself out from the inside, it's almost like your vibrational matches change.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is true. We do attract energy attracts, like energy.
Sure.
And it's really sad to me that people that have been through those abusive relationships tend to attract those, the very thing that you really don't want, but it is an energetic thing, I believe.
Yeah. And I mean, like I say, that imprint that you
Yeah.
would do whenever. That's
Yeah.
why I say, like, that's why when I say you are who you train to be, is because the world we're living in, and if you really want to change your life, you have to have systems in place. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's why I have certain things that I do that are micro resets that I do. If I think something, no, take a moment for yourself. If I'm feeling something, no. If my feel my, my nervous system locking up, no. Like I have things I do all day long
Hmm.
because you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
are who you trained to be. And if you don't train a better version of yourself, if you don't tell yourself, no, that's not love. If you don't tell yourself, repattern yourself,
Right.
reparent your nervous system, then nothing's going to change.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the way I say it is life is a practice. It's work. People, and I tell people that I work with, I'm like, I hate to have to tell you this, but it is work. I don't use the word training necessarily, but I'm like, it's a practice. And I'm like, there are
Yeah.
things that I do every day. There are 4 things that I do every day. I do them all day long in terms of practicing because you can't just let things just happen. You can't let your thoughts even just happen to you.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I say the same thing. I do 3 things I do, but also, like you say, it's a lifestyle.
Hmm.
But also the thing is when you and I teach people these little, I call it having a toolbox, whatever you want to call it, having
Yeah.
systems in place. What it's also forcing you to do is check in with yourself constantly. Maintain this vessel. This
Right.
body is here for the human experience. Like, use it.
Yeah.
It's constantly giving you feedback. Your emotions are packed with data, packed with unmet needs usually. What do you need? I always say, like, if there's a baby screaming, what do we do? What do you need? Baby
Yeah.
can't talk, but guess
Right.
what? We can. What do we need? Say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even that, even being able to connect and communicate that, and if it's to yourself or to someone else, that's, expansion and growth.
Yeah. So let's talk about your practices. What are they?
So I focus on, well, what I do for myself in the morning. I wake up and so wait, I step right into a nervous system reset. I put on an audio of rhythmic thought patterns based on whatever it is I'm working on.
Hmm.
Because also you have to know what you're working on, have it locked and loaded so that when
Hmm.
it hits, you're like ready, aim, fire. I always say that. And then I work with the energy. So I'll do meridian point massages
Hmm.
as well. And I call it like my tune up, my body tune up. So I'll lean over, do my meridian point for anger, my meridian point for fear, which is on the bottom of my foot, and then my meridian point for overthinking. Honestly, the whole thing takes about 3.5 minutes. I consider it like a little morning car wash for this vessel that we're in. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Mind, body, energy. But what I train, my main thing that I work with, when I work with people, I think the most important thing, step one, if you're going to do anything, it's the nervous system lockup. Pay attention to your body, start tuning in. If you feel your shoulders rising, if you feel yourself collapsing, if you feel that grip, that is for me step one. You cannot let that loop complete itself, because if you let it complete itself, I mean, let it get so completely tightened up, you're affirming this is who you are. You're the
Hmm.
victim. You're the person that doesn't get this. You're the person that's abused. You're the person that this. You're this. You're this. You're. The minute it locks up, you affirmed it. You just anchored it back in. You re-stamped that imprint. You know what I mean? So I think it's so imperative to catch that grip. If you're in traffic and you start to feel the tightening, you're thinking something that is triggering your nervous system.
Hmm.
Do not let it collapse. So I always say the one thing I want people to do is the minute they feel that tightening, like just stop what you're doing. And if you have to sway, like this is where I teach them one-on-one, like you do what works for you. Like I like to sway. I can drop right in. Maybe someone can't. Maybe they need to tap the center of their chest. Either way, you need to sit with it until you feel soothed. Do not move until you feel the soothe. And you say to yourself, I am safe. I am safe. It's no different if you have a baby. You're reparenting your nervous system, and take your tone down. Take your cadence down. Rhythmic. Rhythmic. And do not move until you feel the soothe. Your session is done when your body feels soothed and not a minute before. That's why I say this forces people to connect.
Yeah.
Don't connect. What you have to do what feels good for you. And you also pay attention. Don't rush. Because guess what? Rushing signals what? What do we do in primal? What is primal coding? Run from threats.
Right.
I think even the world we live in, because we're also task driven, moving so fast, like that's signaling danger.
Yeah.
No, like you can feel it in your chest when you have a busy day and like you have so many things to do. Like that's even more of a time to just do these little drop-ins.
Yeah.
Got this. I'm good. I got it. I got it.
So how did you come across these techniques? You mentioned earlier meditation. Did you start with meditation or?
No, I mean, like I said, so after the suicides, I really got passionate about the thought patterns, and I started studying the science of the mind, and I didn't understand like how do I harness the momentum of my mind, because mine was woof, I couldn't catch it. You know what I mean? And that's when I learned accidentally that rhythm is sticky, because I was dog sitting at the time and I had to remember all these dogs' names. So I would make up these little riddles like Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. And then I was showering and that was stuck in my head. And I was like, oh my God, get this out of my head. And then I had that aha moment. I was like, oh my God, rhythm is sticky. That's when I started working with thought patterns. And so, like I say, when I say you need to know what you're working on, like if you have a thought pattern that thinks you're not good enough, you create a rhythmic affirmation that basically says the opposite. I am chosen. I am chosen. Whatever you want to say. And I am chosen. So the minute you hear like, I'm not good, I am chosen. I am chosen. I am chosen. That's how the rhythmic affirmations came to be. Obviously, there's a little more to them than that. I'm simplifying them. But that was dealing with my mind, right? So I was able to redirect the thought patterns of my mind, but I was still every now and then feeling that grip. I'm like, ew, what's that? Why do I feel shitty still? That's the nervous system lockup. Because your mind, like if you've been thinking the same thing for so long, why is your mind not believing this affirmation that says otherwise, right? Because you have to train your system, because nothing's real until it's felt, at least for me.
Right.
So how do we feel?
Yeah.
Like we're not shit? How do we feel like we're loved? You know what I mean? And that's why I say the minute you feel the grip, the minute you feel that tightening, you need to signal to your body. And it doesn't happen over time. So then I married the rhythmic affirmation with the movement.
Okay.
And then I wanted to learn the energy, because I also struggled with anger, a lot of anger. I went to anger management a lot. And I was like, okay, this is clearly a very powerful energy, because it's like fire, anyone that's dealt with anger. And that's when I learned anger. Okay, well, not all energy is the same. You have anger, you have depression, and then you have love and money spirals. So anger and depression are two totally different energies, and they need to be met, not managed. If you're someone that struggles with anger, I always say to meet aggression with aggression. And let me explain before someone interprets that wrong. I don't mean what I observed was, if you are someone that's ever been angry and you throw something, it oddly feels better because you've dissipated the energy a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists will tell you just to breathe. You need to breathe when you're angry. True, but it has to be an aggressive breath. There's a huge difference. If you try to lay a calming breath on anger, it's not going to work, which is why it doesn't work for many people. So I say meet aggression with aggression. If you are someone that struggles with anger, you need to learn to dissipate that energy, right?
Yeah.
So hard, hard, hard. And in the process, you clear your mind of all thought. So that's the perfect time to also lay in whatever it is that you need to lay in. There's little systems that I stack together. And versus if you're someone that deals with depression, you're collapsing. What do you need to do? Opposite. You need to get as big as possible. Stand up, shift your state, open your arms, breath out. Oh, like open your mouth so your vessel just gets filled. Just remember that, you guys. If you're angry, dissipate. If you're collapsing in depression, open, get as big as possible.
Yeah.
And that's how you can learn. You have to know like the little nuances. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
If you meet the energy where it is, you'll start to feel, the beautiful thing is you don't feel so helpless. Like when you do this and it works and you're like, wow, that felt better. All of a sudden you realize that you are the healer.
Yeah.
Like we have everything we need. You just have to learn to use it properly.
Yeah, I love your point about, the emotions are, first of all, nothing's real until it's felt, because we are emotional beings. We can tell ourselves affirmations all day long, but if we don't believe them, if we don't feel them, people say, well, this doesn't work. It's like, it's not working because you're just saying the words. You've got to feel the feeling. And I also love what you said about, our emotions need to be, I think they need to be resolved rather than managed or regulated. The lots of talk about regulating your emotions. Like you said, just bring your anger down. It's like, no, why am I angry?
Yeah.
And what can I do to dissipate this? I sometimes, like after my daughter passed away, I had a lot of anger. So
Yeah.
I would go out and do something physical, like go chop wood or, go for a very, I don't run because I'm too old, but go for a really brisk walk or something, but something to dissipate that rather than just try to sit and like meditate it away, because that doesn't work for anger.
Yeah. And then the beautiful thing is once you can dissipate it, it's not so, what do they say? When emotions are high, intelligence is low. So when you can dissipate it, then you can come back and maybe
Yes.
journal, have a conversation with yourself when you're not so, because when you're angry, it's just noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even told clients, because I was talking to one client and she was just like, I could just tell she was all worked up. I only met her. It was the first time I met her, and she's just dumped all over me. And she was angry with her son and her ex-husband, et cetera. I said, well, write a really just nasty letter. Just write it all
Exactly.
out. And she goes, and then send it? And I said, no, don't send it. And we don't send it, but just write it out and then burn it.
Yeah. I call that a brain dump. So I always say when you're brain dumping, let it rip.
Yeah.
Say everything you want to say. But then you take that. You got to look at that though. Look at what you just dumped because that's all your unmet needs.
Right.
And then I say you have to also feed your mind with the nutrients. I would say, which means you want very clear, concise words. So take the dump and then write, clear, concise words of what you need, what you want. You know what I mean? So but it has to be very, like I say, minimal words because it's nutrient. It's like, you're feeding your mind power like nutrients. So you don't need a lot. Yes. And that's interesting. That's so funny. The brain dump.
Yeah. I think
Don't send it.
I love that because people, emotions are there for a reason. All emotions. And I tell people there are no bad emotions. They're there for a reason. Ask them why they're there. It doesn't mean that they need to be expressed in a destructive way. We don't go like we said. You meet anger with anger, but not like you don't go dump on another person. But you have to have that same level of intensity to meet the anger.
Yeah, and I say walk it down the hill and then have a conversation with it, right? Like you're not gonna have a conversation with your kid. I always just picture a child. I'm like, wait, if it's screaming, crying, you're not gonna get anything good. You're not gonna have any good conversation out of the child. So once he's calm, fully calm, then you're like, okay, what's upsetting you? You know what I mean? And then you have a little more clarity. There's something I like to do too, like anytime I'm having a moment of, I say an emotional charge. Whether it's anger, pain, a lot of people not sure what they're feeling. You know what I mean? Whether it's anger, pain. So I say, whenever you're having a really intense emotional charge, I always clap my hands really, really hard. I'm not going to do it on here because it'll be too loud. I clap them together so hard in that moment. And if you rub them hard and you spread it, because of the energy that's in your body, I swear to you, Brian, it feels like you have a ball. You have a ball of energy. And I always say in that moment, you are so clear on what you don't want that play with that ball and say exactly what you do and play with it, play with it, play with it. And it'll start to get smaller and smaller. And for me, that's how I kind of like transmute the energy. And I feel like I've harnessed it and let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can really feel, especially when you're having a charge, if you clap like that, you will feel it's really magical. Like we're so like the energy within our body is just like so powerful. And like you say, like, emotions are there for our expansion and growth because they're constantly saying, what do you need? Who do you need to become to get the life that you desire? Do you need to communicate clearer? Do you need to be more vulnerable? Do you need to speak your mind? What do who do you need to become?
Well, anger is a great example. Anger is there to protect us. We have anger for a reason. If someone's coming at us, we have to be able to react. And so that's from on a physical basis, but emotionally, we feel like sometimes people will say certain words to us,
Mhm.
and we feel attacked.
Yep.
So that's what the anger is there for. It's like it's putting up a wall. It's protecting you.
Yeah. I mean, and those imprint, well, oftentimes, like you say, when someone says something, we feel triggered. That's also like an imprint, you know?
Hmm.
That's why I say when we, with the nervous system, it's funny how if we rehearse over and over again, this protection, then we're easily triggered by facial expressions, by a certain voice, by someone's silence. And we
Hmm.
already have a story of what that means based
Yeah.
on 1975.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But our nervous system doesn't know it's 1975. It doesn't know it's 2025. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, it pulls that story up. That's what that facial expression means. Boom, trigger.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I find it's really interesting because I find I try not to assign intention to people, and I
Mhm.
and I but I noticed that people do that, right?
Yeah.
She said this, and this is what she meant. I'm like, and I won't name anybody, but I'll
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
how do you know that's what she meant? Because that's not what she said.
Yeah.
But that we're calling that old programming back that says that's what that means, or that tone of voice,
Ooh,
or
totally.
that look. And we'll see someone who's just having a bad day and think, well, they don't like me. Well, maybe they're just having a bad day.
Yeah, we always make it all about us. It's so funny. It's not I mean it's not funny, but we do. You know, yeah, the way we interpret information is the life we have. And the crazy thing is, like I said, I feel like I have a lot of experience and I still communicated something wrong
Hmm.
about 5 days ago and it really triggered someone. And it's crazy how even when I'm intentionally trying to communicate something from my heart, it still didn't come out right
Yeah.
because he has his own filter and he heard
Yes.
something else. So that's why it's like we have to extend each other so much grace and just not as it's so hard not to assume and interpret, but like I even did it wrong the other day and it was taken wrong and I'm like, holy shit, this really is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I had a, I had it took me like 45 minutes to really get myself out of that one. I was like, I didn't mean it like that. I don't know how, and I couldn't find the words. I still can't find the words, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the thing is, as we work on these things, we're never perfect. We're always still
Yeah.
working on them, and we still have. I've been working on this for a long time, and I still have things that someone will say something to me, and I'm like, that reminds me of something my mother said to me when I was 16, and it just sends me over the edge. And it's like, that's not my mother, right? This is another person.
Yeah. And isn't it funny? Like in that moment, it is that little kid rushing up being like, what do you mean? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like for me, it's like the little girl that's like just scared to death. You know what I mean? We really have to look at it like that. You really have to look at your trigger. Like in that moment, is that 16-year-old kid coming up and dealing with it?
Yeah.
You need to be the parent and be like, I got this. We're good. You know what I mean? I really kind of look at it like that. Like anytime you trigger in your, you know, whatever you want to call it, your inner child, that version of you that
Hmm.
remembers,
Hmm.
I talk to them like it's not me. I'm like, I got like it's my child.
Yeah.
We're okay. I got this. You know.
Well, I think the work that you're doing, we're talking about, you talked about earlier, like you had this almost this voice that came to you and said,
Mm.
why is this happening? I think that's our higher self trying to talk to us because we are the child too, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
we're trying to channel that higher self all the time to talk to all these parts that we have that are
Mhm.
trying to protect us.
Yeah. I mean, it's the individual soul journey. And I mean, I think it's a really, I mean, I always encourage people to like lean into the wound because when you alchemize it, the journey gets really beautiful. I really just think I call it like abstract art because now that I can look back at everything I endured and now I'm a vehicle of service, but now I'm still growing, you know what I mean? Because I've attracted
Hmm.
a higher level love and it's expanding me even more. It's like, what else are we here for? It's
Yeah.
not like I feel like now it's my duty to hold the light for others and be like, come this way. And
Yeah.
it's my duty to maintain my vibration. It's my duty to keep my vessel high vibe, to keep my thought patterns clear. You know what I mean? I really feel like it's a duty at this point. And I think if there were more of us with that mindset, like I'm gonna rise for myself so I can rise for us all, like raise the conscious collective. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because a lot of times we can't do things for ourselves, but if you could do it for someone else, then do it for someone else. If you can't become better for yourself, but you did it for your daughter, I did it for my dad and my sister, do it for someone else then. Doesn't matter how you start. Find something or someone to do it for if you can't do it for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. That motivation, because we all have to have a why.
Yeah.
So and if I have a why, I can pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And for me, for me, when I lost my daughter, I didn't want to be here. I mean, I was like, but I have a wife, I have another daughter. I'm like, I did it for them.
Yeah.
And then eventually I did it for Shayna, and now I'm to the point where I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
But you have to find that motivation to keep moving forward. And for anybody listening, you have to find that motivation for yourself.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's kind of sad that we can't do it for ourselves.
Yeah,
Like,
sometimes,
where is that love? Where is that love that we just can't do it for ourselves?
yeah, that's a really great question. I think we just get so, our society doesn't teach us that. You talked earlier about, self-love, and self-love is kind of looked down on. We're told it's selfish. We're
Exactly.
told to do things for other people. When I was growing up, they were like, other people are more important. You have to, and it's fine. We need to take care of other people, but
Yeah.
first we have to take care of ourselves. And I
Yeah.
loved you talked about, going back earlier, you were talking about like taking yourself out, going on a date with yourself. I heard people talk about that. And first time I heard it, I was like, that sounds really weird, or making dinner for yourself. But why not? Why not? If you're gonna make a nice dinner for somebody else, why not make a nice dinner for yourself?
Exactly. And like it's interesting that whole time in my life it was is probably the most powerful
Yeah.
because I was really okay with being alone and I didn't feel lonely because the process of that I really connected with myself, like reconnected with all the parts of myself that I had abandoned and
Hmm.
given away.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to call all those parts back, and you have to heal all those parts. I remember when I was in counseling, when I was in my, I don't know, 30s, I guess, and my counselor was talking about, like, when I was a kid. I'm like, why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with anything?
Exactly.
And
I
then,
did the same thing.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm an adult now, but you're always carrying that kid with you. That 5-year-old is always still with you. That 6-year-old, that 16-year-old, they're still in there,
Yeah.
and they do get triggered at certain points. You go right back into that.
Yeah. But you can't, like I say, like, but you take advantage of every trigger and you talk to that, child that rushes up, that story that starts to spin,
Hmm.
and you can completely repattern it. You know what I mean? It's like obviously like you say, it's a lifestyle. I don't think it's ever completely gone, but you can definitely become a way better version of yourself in the process of maintaining these practices, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when people, I know you work with people. We've touched on that. So how do people work with you? How do you work with people?
Well, there's two things I do. So I do one-on-one coaching,
Hmm.
obviously, but also on my website, I have all the digital downloads so people can learn and do it on their own. You have to, like I say, you have to have systems locked and loaded because you
Hmm.
can't wait to get an appointment with us before you're going to deal with whatever you're dealing with. You
Right.
have to have something in place in the moment of the trigger.
Hmm.
So a lot of my digital downloads, sorry, are the rhythmic audios that train people how to do it themselves. They can, like I say, ready, aim, fire, ready, aim, fire. So there's a ton of digital downloads that I offer on top of the one-on-one training.
Yeah, I think it's well, again, I think we resonate so much with the same type of thing that I've come to the conclusion that life is, and I love what you think. It's what you train for. You get the life you train for, because what we don't realize is we're always training one way or the other. These
Exactly.
thought patterns that are going on, they're getting ingrained. We're developing these neural pathways that are going to just, and most of us run them on repeat without even thinking about them and not even knowing we can change the tape. And so you
Exactly.
have to break that cycle, and you're just an excellent example of that. And the thing I love about talking to people that have been through like what you have been through, these extreme examples, is it takes away excuses from the rest of us that say, well, I can't do that because you don't understand what I've been through. I've
Exactly.
talked to people about forgiveness. They're like, well, you don't understand, this person did something. And I'm like, okay, well, I interviewed a guy whose father killed his mother and he forgave his father. So is that someone done something worse to you than that? And
Yeah.
so that lets people know. I mean, you're just an example of the human spirit,
Yeah.
that if we decide, and it is a decision,
Oh,
it is a decision how we're going to view life.
yeah. Exactly. And like you say, we are who we train to be, but majority of us are training in the wrong direction. And I
Yeah.
think the beauty about having systems as place is that I encourage people to feel your emotions to the fullest. Feel that love so hard, feel that pain, feel that anger, because guess what? You have systems in place to bring yourself back to baseline. Because otherwise, you're just living a blah life. If you don't want to feel love, you don't want to feel the pain, you don't want to feel the anger. Well, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want people to feel their emotions fully, live your life.
Yeah, that's a
Big,
really good
big,
point.
big,
I
you know?
I was when I was in counseling when I was younger, the doctor put me on medication for anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
And I took the medications and they kind of worked. They took the edge off of everything. It was
Right.
like, I was like, I feel like I'm like not quite here all the time. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd rather feel the highs and the lows than to
Mhm.
feel nothing.
Exactly.
And I think that sometimes people think, well, if I do meditation, if I do this, if I do that, then I can just like be like calm and be like Zen. And that's to me, that doesn't sound like a desirable thing either.
Yeah, no, I think like for me, meditation is just, I don't know, like again, like just we have such task-driven, high-intensity days. It's just a moment of soothing. It's no different
Hmm.
than a massage, a bath, it's like whatever. I love meditation personally,
No,
um,
yeah,
just because I love how it feels.
yeah.
But like I say, like if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. That's why keep finding your teachers, keep studying, keep reading, keep learning, try this, try that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when it comes to meditation, I didn't mean the thing is I meditate at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. Meditation, I think some sort of mindfulness, I tell people, because it doesn't have to be sitting on a cushion. It could be walking in nature, it could be whatever it is that works for you. So I think mindfulness is very important. But my point is like you don't always stay in that state. That's like a baseline, that's a place you train, but then you have to go out and interact in the world.
Mhm.
And I hear people say, especially like spiritual teachers, like, well, don't get involved in politics and don't do this and don't do that because you just want to maintain like this baseline level. And I'm like, that's not being human. We
Yeah,
are going to be activated sometimes. We're going to get angry. We're
yeah,
going to get sad.
yeah.
I still get sad. My daughter, it was 10 years ago, my daughter passed away. And people are, think like sometimes, well, you've healed, right? Because look at what you're doing. I'm like, no, I still get sad about that. I still miss her. And I'm sure that, what you're doing, all what you've been through, there are probably times it still gets to you.
Yeah, but this is how they live on is through me. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
their journey created this vessel, you know what I mean? And this experience for me. And so like this is how I kept them alive.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. We talked a little bit before we got started recording, and I asked you how you were doing today, and you go like, "It's amazing that I'm here."
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we're all here. I think the human journey is just, the fact that so many things can go wrong in our life. So do you think that what do you think in terms of like do you believe in soul planning? Do you think this happened for a reason or what are your thoughts on that?
I tap dance around a lot of thoughts. Clearly, thought pattern expert. Um, I'm not really sure, but what I do know is I believe this is a weird belief that I have. So if this sounds weird to anyone, sorry, but this is what I believe. I believe
Hmm.
that so many of us, I don't want to say have to be sacrificed, but deal with high levels of abuse because when we do alchemize it, we become the one that holds the light for others. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? We really become a vehicle of service. Like, you know what I mean? So I think
Hmm.
it's needed for all of those that can't do it for themselves.
Yeah.
That's just a weird belief because I had so much stuff happen to me that was so bad. This is how I sort things out in my own mind, you guys. There is
Hmm.
no right or wrong. If I had to rewrite a story that tells me the reason why I was physically and sexually abused as a little girl is because I was meant to become what I'm doing now, then
Hmm.
that worked for me. That soothed me. So there is no right or wrong. You know what I mean? That's just how I soothed
Yeah.
myself and it worked for me. So
Yeah.
that's a belief that I chose and I really believe it. That I
Well,
believe that many, like if you look at like the Oprahs and all the people that have been abused, look what they're doing now. The few that make it become.
yeah, it's interesting to me because I'm an engineer, so I'm a very left brain person, and I'm
Okay.
like so like I look at it either like two ways. One is I do believe in soul planning,
Okay.
and I do believe that people choose to go through certain things to go because we can grow from it. People like just like athletes train, or people that climb Mount Everest, or people that run marathons. They put themselves through all kinds of things because they want to test themselves and they want to grow.
Mhm.
That's something that I happen to believe. But then setting that aside, let's assume that we don't believe that.
Okay.
What we do know is we can take those things and we can alchemize them,
Yes.
as you've done, right? So that's not debatable. You made a choice to take those things and to become who you've become. There's another choice. There are people that choose not to do that. There are people that choose to let those things destroy them. And so it's that thing. You become what you train to be. And something along the way with you said, no, I'm not going to succumb to this. I'm going to rise above it. I'm going to take this. I'm going to transmute it. So when people say, well, what kind of God would allow these things to happen? What kind of God would plan this? I don't know. Maybe God didn't plan it, but
Yeah.
we can choose what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. It's like spiritual evolution or spiritual suffocation. And spiritual suffocation, you feel these are the people that stuck, hate their lives, like think there's no way out. Like it's literally spiritual suffocation,
Yeah.
is screaming for expansion. And that's why you can't breathe. And that's why you feel heavy. Like, you know,
Yeah. So let's talk about like how people can reach you. When we talked about what your offerings are, you do work with people one on one,
I
and you
do work with
said you've
people
got some other things on your website that people can download. So how can people reach you?
Everything is at angelajeanchat.com. Yeah, you can pretty much find everything there. My soul sync sessions are linked to that. Those are the rhythmic thought pattern training. I love
Hmm.
those. Try those. There's a free demo I want people to download as well. It's a demo of the nervous system reset piggybacked with a thought pattern session. And it's really powerful because it allows them to feel the possibility of like, oh my God, wow, this feels good. And also guaranteed what I put in the thought pattern session will be dancing in your head by the next morning. Like, so it's just really cool to show them how sticky rhythm is, you know what I mean? And what you can do and the possibilities of totally taking your transformation in your own hands and actually having some fun with it. Like that's what I really like to do. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is very serious, but I do like to make it fun, interactive, use music, use your body, using dancing, not dancing, but movement.
Yeah.
We don't have to suffer to transform,
Yeah, yeah, and I
you
want to, I want
know?
to, I want to go into that a little bit because we talked about training and we talked about practice, and it might make life sound like it's drudgery, but I can tell that you're enjoying your life.
1000%. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And like I say, it's like because once you have systems in place, you are sitting in the power seat of your life. You are not being dragged along anymore. You got this. No. Oh, that shitty thought. Okay. No, we're going this way. Ready, aim, fire. This is what I'm doing. This
yeah,
is who I am. And the more you practice, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. It becomes your new state of being. That becomes your new identity, not the person that's abandoned, not the person that's abused. No, because you got this.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that just happens with training. Like if I'm trying to build a booty, it's not going to happen right away. It's going to take about a month or two.
yeah.
And then boom, booty. So I'm just saying, like, we are who we train to be. It's not immediate, but it is quite fast if you commit.
Yeah, well, and it's an ongoing thing. So,
Yeah.
again, it's like, again, we talk about these things and people might think, oh, that sounds like so much work. And it's not. You can start to play with it, and it actually does become really interesting. It makes life really interesting, even when you start catching your own thoughts. It's like,
Totally.
oh wow, I caught it this time. I before I reacted, I actually figured it out.
Yeah, it's almost like your alter ego is starting to have a competition with like your smaller self. It's fun though. It is fun.
Yeah, it
And that's why
is.
but that's why also like real fast, last thing I want to say, I like to
Yeah.
focus on micro resets. All my sessions are micro resets. They're 2 minutes long because
Okay.
I think that we constantly need to be circling our mind back, constantly need to be redirecting our thought patterns. This is where we're going. This is who I am.
Right. Right. It's not just that one thing first thing in the morning or the one thing at night. It's really it's all day long, right? It's all day, every day.
Yeah. It's no different than drinking a glass of water,
Yeah.
hydrating yourself, feeding yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, Angela, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to talk about?
Your camera broke up a little bit. Can you repeat
Oh,
yourself?
yeah. Is there? Yeah, you were arguing that's a little bit unstable. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think we're good. There's just two things I like to always say at the end of
Hmm.
podcasts is that we just need to really be responsible for the energy that we bring into the world, meaning the moment we step out our front door, because it really does have a domino effect with
Mm,
everyone we come in contact with. And the one thing I like to say is when one rises, we all rise,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that we are here. Sometimes people think, well, we're just here for ourselves, but we are here for others. And I love your spirit that
Yeah.
you said, okay, I've gone through this. I'm going to take this. I've transformed this in myself, transmuted it, alchemized it, whatever word you want to
Right.
use, and now you're giving it back to other people. And I think that sometimes, we go through more difficult things. I think you're right. So other people maybe don't have to go through that. I think it's interesting. We can learn from our own experiences or we can learn from other people's
Yeah.
experiences. And, so people can take advantage of this opportunity to learn from what you've gone through.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say is for anyone listening is never underestimate how small the change is because that tiny pivot completely changes everything. It can changes the conversation you have with someone. It changes the thought you have about it. So don't underestimate the the tiny movements
Yeah,
because
that's the thing.
they're huge. They're huge.
Yeah, you don't have to change the world. You can change yourself.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And that changes everything. Just the way we look at something. What again, your past, you've said I'm going to look at this and use it with purpose. Someone else might look at it and say, I'm a victim. Nothing good will ever happen to me. And just, that is a choice. That's a choice that you make right here.
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah. Well, it's great to talk to you today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
All
fun.
right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Brian.
Have you ever wished for gentle guidance or a comforting word exactly when you need it most? Well, I've created my Love Lives On Oracle deck just for that purpose. Now, this isn't a deck that's about predictions, it's about connection. Every card has been thoughtfully designed to guide you through life's toughest moments, to illuminate your path, and help to remind you that you're never alone, that your loved ones are always there right beside you. So, whether you're seeking clarity, comfort, or a loving message from beyond, each card is here to speak directly to your soul. And along with the deck comes a downloadable PDF guide that you can use that will give you an affirmation for the day, something to reflect on, and even an activity to do to keep you connected to your loved one. So check out the Love Lives On Oracle deck today. You can get it at stan.store/grief to growth. Stan.store, STAN.store/grief, numeral 2, growth.